All right. Okay. Oh, wait, we're on. We're on. All right. All right. All right. This is your host for the most. Well, most of the time here in sunny side Dubai. Today I got a special guest. This is not going to be about crypto and blockchain technically, but it's kind of connected. But here's the thing, though. This is just to keep. Basically, what my guy right here he's working on is he's helping human beings like you and me to fly. Basically, in a very oversimplified way. So I thought that was really fascinating. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to let Andrea introduce himself to the cryptoverse, the Cryptocosm, all you lovely folks here in Dubai and all around the world. Who he is, where he came from, what is he up to, and how this idea came up to be. So please, sir, take it away.
Yes, so first of all, thank you for inviting me. I'm Andrea Giannini. I'm the co-founder and CTO of Exovolar. At Exovolar, we build exoskeletons to make people fly. We want to make our technology accessible to everyone. But I'll give you a little bit of an overview of myself. First of all, I'm in Dubai too here, and we are gaining a lot of traction here especially, but I'll tell you more on that later. So I was born and raised in Italy, and in the south of Italy. And I grew up mostly playing basketball, playing the piano, and playing video games. And I've always been fascinated by the world of electronic systems. I really believe that electronics changed the world, and it's going to continue to change the world in the future to come as well. It literally made our world better. So I remember the first day, I think I was probably 8 or 9 years old when I opened my first computer case. And still that day, even today, what really fascinates me is how something so complex that can be an ensemble of wires, printed circuit boards, and all the little black box on a PCB, which are integrated circuits, can create something so intuitive and easy to use, a desktop computer, that even a kid with little to no training at all can learn how to use in a few minutes. So since that moment on, I decided I was going to spend my entire life learning how a computer works and how I became a computer engineer. So I had a bachelor in electrical engineering and computer science and a master in electrical engineering and computer science. So after my bachelor, I worked at CERN in Geneva, one of these experiments with the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland. And then after my master's degree, That was a fun experience, actually. I can tell you one thing that I really liked about CERN. It's that I'm from Italy, but I was working close to someone from US, the UAE, and Saudi, and China. And we never cared about the different in ethnicity and the different in religion. We just were all together working for the same purpose, the same goal. And so that's something really beautiful about CERN, and one of the many experiences I had there. So after that, I finished my master's degree. As I mentioned, I moved to Zurich. In Zurich, I was working at ETH, and I was working as a computer architect for deep learning applications. So computer architectures for AI, let's say for AI algorithms mostly. But it was in Zurich where I first approached air mobility. So first of all, it's always been a dream of mine to be able to fly, like since I was a little kid. But Marcos, I'd be willing to bet you had the same dream too. Like once in a lifetime, at least you wake up in the morning. And you think, well, I wish I could fly. And
true. Like when I think of that, I wish I could fly. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but when you talk about flying, I know for some reason I keep thinking about the movie Space Jam, the R. Kelly song, "I Believe I Can Fly." You know, it's stuck in my head. So, God.
Right. It's the level of inspiration that comes from only thinking about flying. It literally makes me want to do more in my own living, and inspires me to push beyond the limit of what we believe is possible. Like up until this point, we literally built everything around us being constrained by gravity. Everything that's around us we built, and we lived knowing that gravity was a constraint. Instead, being able to fly, I truly believe will completely unlock our abilities to design beyond our own imagination. So in the future, we'll build flying cities and even play Quidditch. There are so many things that you can do when you can fly. So in Zurich, I approached air mobility. So I was an engineer, and I remember I was working very close to the office of Raffaello and Andrea. Raffaello and Andrea was the founder of Kiva Systems, and they were working on robots for inventory. So they were able to basically cut down the time and the cost of running inventory in factories from many hours and for many days, actually, to just hours. That company today is known as Amazon Robotics. So after we got acquired.
Oh, okay. Wow.
At that time, the group of Raffaello and Andrea was working on unmanned aerial vehicles. And it's so interesting to think about that millions of years ago, we started walking as humankind. Thousands of years ago, we learned how to ride horses to move faster. And hundreds of years ago, 200 ago, we built the first motor vehicle. But it wasn't until December 17, 1903, when two underrated and underfunded startup founders, Wilbur and Aubrey Wright, flew for 12 seconds on the first aircraft ever made by humankind, changing completely the meaning of transportation as we knew it. And now we have unmanned aerial vehicle. Yeah, we have machines that can fly themselves without any inputs from an external pilot. So that's one thing that I realized. The other thing that I learned is that jetpacks are actually a thing. They're not something out of Grand Theft Auto alone anymore. You can actually, they exist. The problem is that we can't use them. Like, they are very hard to use. Yeah. They're not accessible to us. Sometimes you need hundreds of hours to learn how to fly a jetpack, and that translates also in thousands of dollars. So let's pick up gravity industries. I remember watching, while I was in Zurich, the video of Richard Browning. It was a TED Talk, and the title of the TED Talk was How I Built a Jet Suit. I was really inspired by that story. And the way they fly is that they rely a lot on your upper body strength and your ability to keep balance in the air. Basically, they have 4 turbojet engines, 2 around each arm and 1 in the back. So I thought there has to be a better way. I remember that I was still a student at the time, but I contacted Richard Browning directly. And they are one of the pioneers of this industry. And he answered to me. And I didn't know how, but I remember telling him, look, I think I can use my skills to close the gap between the advancements in controlled engineering and robotics, like what they were developing with the group of Raffaello and Andrea, and the world of jetpacks, to make something that is easier to use and accessible to everyone. But I had no idea how to do it. So fast forward 2 years, I was a computer architect in Palo Alto, California, and the company I was working for was about to get acquired. So I started looking for the next opportunity. And that's when I decided to become a founder. So after working as CERN in Zurich and in Palo Alto, California, I learned mostly 2 things. The first one is that no one knows everything. Like, even the smartest people in the world, they do not know everything. What's important is really to know what you don't know. Yeah. And if you know what you don't know, you can surround yourself with people that can compensate your lack of knowledge, people even smarter than you, that can move forward and can make your vision come true. And then the other very important thing that I learned is that it doesn't matter how big of a group you work with, it can be 5 people, 2 or 70 or 75. A single person with the wrong attitude can bring down the morale of the entire group. For those 2 reasons, I decided to become a founder. So I decided to start a company and work on culture first. Even when I hire, I always hire for attitude and not for skills. Because I believe that if you have the skills but not the right attitude, first of all, they're not going to learn anything from you. And they're also going to bring down the morale of the others. If instead you have the attitude and not the skills, you can always learn.
Great.
But I didn't know mechanical engineering, right? So I was an electrical engineering, and I've done so many things in that field, but I had no idea what mechanical engineering was. And so I started looking for a co-founder. I knew that, and I started looking for a co-founder. And that's when where I found online, mostly two angel lists, one now how my current co-founder of Exovolar. I remember that the subtitle on LinkedIn used to say, "I'm building a jet suit." As soon as I read that, I thought I have to talk to this guy. So I contacted him, and after the first video call, I took a flight from the West Coast to the East Coast to meet him in person. And after we talked the first time, I took the second flight, and then the third flight. And then after that, I decided I was going to move from the West Coast to the East Coast to become the co-founder and CTO of Exovolar. So that's how the journey started. And I can tell you also a little bit more about the beginning of our time, especially at Exovolar. So when we started working together, we knew we wanted to make this technology, jet suits, accessible to everyone. But we realized mostly two things. First one is that human dexterity is needed where it is hard for us to reach. Every year, hundreds of people die in disaster zones because they cannot receive medical attention on time. And the reason is that there are places where helicopters will never be able to land or take off. In those situations, jet suits can literally save lives. The other thing that we realized is that mobility enabling technology is very limited. Not only helicopters, but also the current jetpacks, they still rely, as I mentioned before, either on your upper body strength, on your ability to keep balance. So we decided we were going to build something that is easy to use and completely hands-free. Of course, if we were to release the pilot from the effort of keeping balance in the air, we needed to find a new technology to do it. And that's when we stumbled upon thrust vectoring. Thrust vectoring is the technology used by SpaceX in landing rockets. And it's also used by fighter jet and advanced fighter jet applications. So we thought about reusing the same technology, but this time applying that on the world, in the world of jetpacks, to make something that is hands-free and completely easy to use. Of course, you cannot buy from a grocery store a thrust vectoring enabled turbojet engine. So we started redesigning our own version of it. We filed a patent from the United States, and we received the patent back at the end of 2020. And the advantage of our version of thrust vectoring is that it's very, very easy to implement on small turbojet engines. I make it simple. How it works is basically we change dynamically the orientation of the tip that is connected to each nozzle to help the pilot keep balancing in the air. So we started building a couple of capability demonstrators, and in 2021, we built our first jet suit prototype. I'll be more than happy to share the video later. We have 4 turbojet engines, 2 around each leg, and each nozzle, each engine has thrust vectoring technology that allows each nozzle to independently move with respect to one another. So long story short, it really works like a Segway in midair. Basically on a Segway, when you want to move forward, you lean forward and the wheels start spinning so that you don't fall, right? And by balancing the mechanical forces, everything starts moving forward, right? It is the same thing in midair, but this time with turbojet engines. You lean forward and the nozzle of the engines turn to push you back. And by balancing on mechanical forces, everything starts flying forward. So it really works like shifting your center of gravity. We are the Segway of the air. So we demonstrated tethered hovering, and after sharing the video internally, we started gaining some traction. So we received an MOU and multiple LOIs from different industry partners, a letter of support from the United States Air Force, because they want to use our technology for search and rescue, reconnaissance, and surveillance, mostly for first response application. Then we received a grant from the state of New Jersey, plus the investment from Techstars. I'm a Techstars alumni in 2022. And then recently, as I mentioned to you before, the Draper Startup House, which is backed by Tim Draper, that I met a couple of weeks ago in Riyadh at Leap, they decided to invest in us as well.
I'm sure the event in Riyadh must have been pretty amazing, as far as I heard from other people too. So, yeah,
it was great. Like, it's really incredible what Saudi is doing. Like, they are attracting so many entrepreneurs and so many innovators to to reality, and Neon as well. Like Neon is such an amazing project that as soon as you step in, you feel like the same way as I feel when I step in Dubai. You feel like the future is coming to reality.
Yeah.
What's impossible is not anymore impossible, but it can be made real. So yes, I met Tim Draper, which was
nice.
was interesting because Tim Draper is one.
What was it like though? Like not many people get to meet him though, you know. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
like, what was it like?
Yeah, it was interesting because I mean he's one of the LPs of the Draper startup house they invested. He's very tall. He's 190. I'm probably more than 190, but I'm 205, so I'm very tall too. So it was interesting because like I don't think it happens so many times that he finds someone taller than him. But he was definitely interested in the company and was happy that we are building exoskeletons to make people fly, because if I can fly, he can fly too. So yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I met you. I met you in person. You're a pretty tall guy, so I'm like, that's okay.
Yeah. So that was definitely an interesting conversation, and we are going to talk more with him soon. I think in April when I'm back in New York. So after that, as I mentioned, like our first application is first response, but we don't want to stop there. By 2025, we want to open the first ever made flight park, so that anyone can truly experience the dream of flying in one of our jet suits in a safe space. And that's the goal to scalability. Like thanks to trust vectoring, we can reduce the training time from hundreds of hours to little to no training time at all. That means that you can learn how to fly in a few minutes. Yeah.
The first that's suit huge. That is huge.
Yes.
Man. Wow.
Yeah.
That's wow. Okay. Sorry. Please go ahead. Sorry, I just got blown away because I know it's a lot of flight time and stuff. Talking to my pilot friends and all, but this is like a whole game changer.
Yeah, completely. It will completely change the world of jetpacks and jet suits, and also the way we think about flying. Like there are so many even misconceptions about flying. For instance, we are more scared about flying than driving, while the number of casualty per unit of time flying, it's order of magnitude lower than the number of casualty per unit of time driving. So this technology, the technology that we use to make airplanes, is already safe enough, even way more safe than driving a car.
Agreed.
So we are working to get to that point, but there already exists an example of it, like airplanes, for instance. But in order to get to the point, the first customers will fly tethered, and the tethered will provide all the safety that is necessary to learn how to fly in a few minutes. And we want to open the first flight park here in Dubai. We're going to fly untethered by the end of this year. I really hope actually in a few months from now, as soon as the cold in Europe goes away. No, it's been really cold. Sometimes you just don't want to go out at all.
Agreed. Yeah.
But for the first customer, they will fly in a tethered fashion. So there's going to be a safety cable, and you can fly. I can see this happening, flying back and forth on the Persian Gulf from a few hundred meters over Dubai, for instance. Mm-hmm. But we don't want to stop there. Like my vision goes way beyond that.
Yeah.
There is an entire space on our planet that we never access as easily as we access the ground. And that space, it's the sky. Being able to fly will completely unlock our imagination, as I mentioned before. I've talked about even playing Quidditch would be possible. But I really want to see what everyone will be able to do when anyone will truly be able to experience the superpower of flight. And that's mostly the reason, like what I hope for the future. This is something that I don't share too often, but I want to see a kid looking outside the window and seeing people fly and thinking about space exploration, teleportation, and making other people fly instead of fighting over resources or differences in ethnicity and religions. And that's the world I want to live in. Yeah. That's
a admirable ambition, and a goal for our future, so because when I was thinking, when you mentioned about, one of the use cases, because I guess aside from the Quidditch like the Quidditch game,
Yeah.
or just the kind of like the entertainment experience. But I also kind of want to ask you, outside of the like first responder, I mean, I could see this exoskeleton suit be used for like traditional purposes, like say for example cleaning buildings,
Yes.
or maybe I don't know, like say for example you're cleaning a ship or something like that, like I don't know. Sorry, I apologize. That's the only thing I can think of, but I'm sure there's way more applications out there. There has to be, so.
Yeah, of course. Like, this is just the first step. Like, for first response, there is a huge demand, meaning that the US military tried to develop this technology since the 40s. But there was, let's say, the technology readiness level, now talking with the most military term, was not ready enough to fly untethered in a disaster zones. But now it is. But this is literally just the first step. Sports and entertainment is the fastest go-to-market, which allow also to fly without the certification and without the license. But there's so much more, and I can give you a couple of examples, for instance. We were approached we registered interest from General Electric to use our technology for inspection and maintenance of turbines. Like today, today, unfortunately, people still use helicopters to do inspection and maintenance of turbine. And there are mostly three problems with helicopters. The first one is that they are very expensive. The cheapest is $5.5 million in cost. Because there's no solution, there's no alternative to do inspection and maintenance with other vehicles. The second problem is that they are intrinsically not green. They emit carbon dioxide and nitrous oxides. Also, I want to remind everyone that nitrous oxide is 1 ton of nitrous oxide is more than 200 tons of carbon dioxide in terms of effect on global warming. And also, they are intrinsically not safe. You need a pilot and the crew. And literally, there is a guy strapped to an helicopter to do inspection and maintenance, hangs from an helicopter to do inspection and maintenance of a turbine. So that's one of the many other applications. You can literally use a suit. In that case, you have a single person. You don't need a crew and a pilot. They can both do inspection and maintenance and also fly. And at the same time, it will be way, way cheaper and way, way lighter. So we'll emit way less than that. Also, I want to stress the point that our engines can run 100% on sustainable aviation fuel. So we can be 100% sustainable. We haven't made the switch yet, but at Exovolar, we are offsetting all our carbon dioxide emissions since last month, actually. So we are offsetting all our emissions. So we try to be as carbon neutral as we can, meaning that we are, unless I made some mistakes in the calculations, but yeah. And and also we signed an MOU with a hydrogen powertrain company to potentially build a hydrogen powertrain for jet suits. And I'm looking personally to file. And we also have another, let's say, we are fighting for a grant to use alternative batteries to run all our suits with electric engine mostly. But anyway, that being said, so inspection and maintenance, it's definitely in other applications. But as you mentioned, there are so many more. Like, that's why, I mean, how we are all human beings, right? We are definitely limited. And we want to see what people will come up to. That's something that we usually ask, even when we have a flight club and we have a wait list for people that want to fly. And we usually ask, what are the other applications that you might think of? There are so many things that we did and we could have not done in other ways because we were not flying. So I mentioned the flying cities. Like, for instance, a couple of days ago, I was talking with a friend here in Dubai, and they mentioned, I always had this dream, Andrea, since I was a kid, to build a flying hotel. Can you imagine maybe a hotel in midair, and you can only reach it by flying there? And you have all the, it's all structured in a way that it's accommodating people flying in and out. And that's another example. Or even, just to give you another one, even Amazon filed a patent. This is true, they filed a patent a few years ago for a flying factory to store store packages in midair, like having a temporary storage place in midair, so you can fly a drone or a jet suit.
Wait, for real?
Yeah, for real, for real. They filed a patent a few
Oh,
years
wow.
ago. It was a provisional, but still. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But I mean, I'm thinking like, wow. Okay. Like, there's like a giant, warehouse up in the sky. I'm sure it's going to be like a couple of kilometers upstairs. But that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Never really thought about that. I have seen like concepts of, say, like, flying cities or hotel.
Yeah.
Warehouse, it is kind of interesting, but I don't know. At the same time, too, Amazon, I don't know. But I'm cool with the hotel thing, but the warehouse, it's kind of like a far stretch for me. But now when I think about it, I guess it could kind of make sense, I guess. Like, I mean, the way the economy is growing and stuff, so I think you can streamline a lot of things.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't do the math personally, but actually it's cost effective to have a flying warehouse. But people are thinking about it, and they are fighting passions about it. So I really like the time we are right now, because it feels like the future is coming to reality. And, so it's great to be part of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I gotta ask you this, because I shared with my fiance earlier. Hey, I'm talking to you. Talking to the Exovolar suit and stuff. So I think one of the things she asked me was, okay, if thinking about the Jetsons, right? So I know, like you have like a bunch of cars, going traffic in the sky and stuff. Or say like Star Wars, you're in the city, you're on the planet of Coruscant. You see all this traffic, Do you kind of envision that, people using the Exovolar suits, like following a traffic in midair? Is that something strikes the imagination, or do you have a totally different view on that?
No, yes, 100%. Air mobility is definitely the next step. The issue with air mobility right now is the lack of regulation, but there are already people flying air taxi right now. They already exist, the technology is already there. And definitely a jet suit can be an alternative to an air taxi, like a motorcycle is for a car. You can park a jet suit in your garage. In order to park your air taxi in your garage, there needs to be some redesign. So I can see that happening. And since you mentioned about traffic, and since we are in MENA, I really believe that air mobility in general can offer a great, safe, and green alternative to mobility itself. But let's talk about safety first. The first cause of death in MENA, in Middle East and North Africa, for people below 29 years old are car accidents. I really believe that air mobility can offer a safer solution. And for instance, flying, it's intrinsically safer than driving. I don't remember if I mentioned this before, but literally the number of casualty per unit of time flying, it's order of magnitude lower than the number of casualty per unit of time driving. And still, it's easier to find someone that is scared about flying rather than someone that is scared about driving. And the other advantage is that for the same number of vehicles spread out on a two-dimensional place, like the road and the streets, a three-dimensional space offers way more possibility. If you think about it, we were constrained to drive in a two-dimensional plane up to this point, but having a three-dimensional space with spread out for the same number of cars will make things intrinsically safer, because at the end, traffic means that we spend too long in cars. If we can fly, we're going to reach from point A to point B in a shorter amount of time. And shorter amount of time translates directly in saving lives. So I do believe that air mobility is a great solution to solve so many problems, especially the problem of traffic casualties. And I can see people flying around in the future as well in one of our jet suits.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Hey, thank you for the insight about the traffic stuff, because I know that'll be, I'm sure that's one of the first things, people think about, right?
Yeah. I can tell you another thing about that, actually, now that I remember. There is, so even if we start flying, and even if we have a three-dimensional place, still there might be traffic in air, right?
Right.
But today, there are already companies companies that are already working on autonomous air traffic control. So it's very easy to it's way easier to create lanes in midair than it is to create lanes on the ground. And to give you another example, people today talk about autonomous ground vehicles, right? Cars that can drive themselves.
Like a typical Teslas, I know they have their own AI thing going.
Yeah, they have level 1, level 2, level 3, until the level 5 that I used to call the Batman level, where you can literally call your car and can pick you up and it can go away, like in the movies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And but now we are talking today about autonomous ground vehicles, but autonomous aerial vehicles, they've been out for so many decades, not unmanned aerial vehicle like UAVs, but autopilot. The autopilot feature in airplanes has been around for so long. And the reason is that it's intrinsically easier to fly because you don't have a lot of obstacles. So right now, having an autonomous flight controller, it's way easier than create an autonomous ground controller for a vehicle. But still, of course, if we start increasing the number of cars in midair, there might still be a problem. So today there are companies that are already creating, for instance, air domes, and inside each air domes there are lanes that are completely regulated. So if you fly a vehicle in one of those lanes that for some reason it starts steering away, it can autonomously go back in the lane, which is something that only now people are thinking about cars, but there are already people thinking about it since years ago for the future to come, for the future of mobility.
Interesting. That's fascinating to learn about. There's already, people have come up with some, I guess, ideas or, I guess, theoretical stuff, but it's possible to make it happen. Actually, one of my other questions is that I just want to circle back to the energy side, because, one is the electric, you talk about electric energy or using hydrogen. I'm kind of curious about that. So I guess you're using some sort of like a sustainable fuel. Could you elaborate on, what are the various energy sources the suit you're using
absolutely.
Potentially?
So there is one issue. So why are now we are using Jet A. Jet A is the same fuel that goes in airlines, which is a non-sustainable aviation fuel. But our engines are 100% compatible with SAF, with sustainable aviation fuel. And we are planning on make the switch really soon. In the meanwhile, since already takes some time, we are offsetting 100% of our carbon dioxide emission. So we are completely carbon neutral at Exovolar, since very recently, actually. That being said, let's talk about other sources. Let's talk about batteries first. There is one issue with the current battery technology, and unfortunately, it doesn't seem it's going to improve by too much in the future, unless we change basically completely technology from lithium-ion batteries to something different. I'll try to make it simple. So basically, for the same flight time, roughly, you need to carry 40 to 60x the weight of the fuel tank in batteries. And that's the major issue. That basically is the joule per kilogram of batteries. It's very low. So you need to carry 40 to 60x the weight of the power source. So why does it work for cars? Well, the reason is that cars are carrying a lot of weight in batteries. They accept to carry 300, 400 kilograms of batteries. But in the long term, because of electricity, it's very cheap. It is cost effective to actually have an electric car. The capex right now, it's a little bit high. You need to spend some money to have an equivalent electric car. I really do believe there is an opportunity to for the government to implement some policies to reduce the price, but I'm not going to derail from the topic. But in the long term, it's convenient. It's very cost effective. The issue with flying is that sometimes you can't accept that weight. Sometimes the weight it's a little bit too high. So what are the other sources? There's hydrogen, for instance. Hydrogen is great because hydrogen you can carry 3x the more specific energy density than fuel. So what does it mean? That with respect to fuel, you have to carry 1/3 of the weight. So why are we not using hydrogen right away? Because it's not like there are two major ways of using hydrogen right now. One is to use the gas form of hydrogen.
Yeah.
The problem is that hydrogen is the lightest element in the universe. So it's going to take a big volume. Even if you compress it, it's still very big to carry on a single person jet suit.
Oh, okay.
So you can carry liquid. By liquefy hydrogen, well, you can make it, let's say, quote unquote, compress it more. There's a change of state, but you can reduce the volume of it a little bit more than what is compressed hydrogen. The issue is that in order to keep it liquefied, you need to basically keep it at a temperature that is lower than minus 200 Celsius. And in order to keep it at that temperature, there is a fixed cost in terms of volume and mass for the cooling system, and let's say you still need a battery outside of the fuel cells, which are now the quote unquote tank for hydrogen. But without getting too much into the details, if you want to keep it liquid, there's a lot of fixed costs related to what's all around to actually make it work. There's sometimes even for 100 kilowatt of power, you need to carry hundreds of kilograms just for the infrastructure that's around. So that's why Jet A, unfortunately, is still the best in terms of specific energy density. They're still the best solutions for us. But there is sustainable aviation fuel that is more or less as performant as Jet A. The only difference is that it costs twice as much as Jet A, but our game is not there. It's not about the cost of fuel. So that's why we're making the switch soon. At the same time, we are working through alternative batteries. As I mentioned before, there is an opportunity to use a completely different technology. Yeah. And I can mention one, for instance, which is aluminum air technology. India is spending a lot of money on using aluminum air technology in cars, for instance. And the advantage of aluminum air is that it's just for the same, talk about ground vehicles, for the same distance, let's say, and same speed, let's say, normalizing all the parameters. You just need to carry 30% more weight than fuel on average. The problem of aluminum air batteries, they're not rechargeable. So basically you need to scrape the rust, quote unquote. It's not literally that, but basically that's what happens, to remove the rust out of the aluminum to reuse it. So you have to bring it to a smelting facility.
Interesting.
But that can be a potential solution for the future of small air mobility systems. I still don't know, but we are working toward different angles, different aspects, but we'll see in the future.
All right, interesting. All right, okay, cool. Thank you for the wonderful insight on the energy side of it. Okay, let's talk about just the suit itself. Is it? I know, like, do you have like some sort of like a customized? I don't know, like a system on it or something, like, or like a framework, or is it like pretty standard? I guess.
Yeah, it's 100% non-standard. There is no standard, and it's all custom made. Okay. And the beauty is that we did everything in-house. Of course, especially for the strapping of the suit right now, those are things that you can buy off the shelf. But mostly our core technology, transvectoring technology, that's something that we developed completely in-house. Okay. The first jet suit prototype we actually built in two. It's interesting, like when we started the company, we were a garage company. We're a COVID garage company. So we started in 2020.
All right.
We had, I swear, we started in New Jersey, and we had bullet holes from the windows. So,
wow. Oh, New Jersey, that's all other.
Yeah, exactly. That was a little bit sketchy. And we did so many things we were not allowed to do, like running turbojet engines indoor, which is completely...
They don't need to worry about it. They got other things to deal with, right? So yeah, I like it. I like that.
And we started doing everything ourselves. And of course, we made so many mistakes along the way, but we fixed them all. And then we made new mistakes until we got to the point where we were able to demonstrate tether hovering in October 2021. So it's all custom made. It took us a lot of iteration to make that. And now we have an amazing team. Now we are 6 people.
All right.
We are working 3 full-time, 3 part-time. And we have a beautiful co-working space in Brooklyn, in New Lab. And we 3D printer CNC machines. And so that's why we are doing most of our prototyping ourselves. Of course, we're going to outsource production, but we do 100% everything. The only thing we buy are the engine themselves. The engines are made in the Netherlands, but I can see it's very cost effective to make it in-house as well. So we're probably going to switch soon. Let's say, I don't want to give a timeline, but it makes sense for us in the future to build our own as well.
Interesting. So you got the engine from Netherlands, but I'm kind of curious about the US though. Like, are there because they also because as far as I understand, the United States is sort of like a leader in the avionics side of things, right? So, I don't know. I was just kind of curious about that. Like, are there any suppliers or people who kind of build these? I guess what do you call it? Miniature engines?
People that can build pineapple-sized turbojet engines. Yes, there are people that actually do it. There are not so many because mostly these engines were built for RC copters. Believe it or not, there are people that spend tens of thousands of dollars to actually buy turbojet engines to put on their radio control vehicles. And so for that reason, there are not so many partners. One of them is AMT Jets in the Netherlands. JetCat is another one, but I'm not sure if they're here. But there are not so many partners. Yeah.
Okay.
I can definitely see that happening in the future, though. I can definitely see as soon as we grow the industry of personal air mobility, more partners will come in. Okay.
Yeah. Because my understanding is, I guess the aviation or the aviation industry, in the grand scheme of it, it is kind of small in terms of like the technology. Like it's a sort of like a club in a sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. And of course, highly regulated too, right? I mean, so interesting. All right. So we covered about the energy side, traffic, safety. What are the things you want people to know about air mobility? Are there any fringe technologies that could add value to what you guys are working on?
Yes, definitely the advancement in power sources can definitely have values for us as well. Because it's not only about sustainability. It's also about, for instance, turbojet engines right now are a little bit noisy, and they still the stream that comes out of a turbojet engine is still very hot. It's basically turbojet engines works by accelerating air and by creating a volume expansion outside of the turbojet engine. And since the volume is expanding and the pressure of the air is the same in input and output, the temperature is very high. So long story short, you have a certain temperature at the entrance, at the inlet, and you have way more larger temperature at the outlet. Using electric ducted fan, for instance, like propellers, that would instead solve a lot of problems because you don't have any more the temperature increase in the output. The problem is that in order to use electric ducted fan, you need either a hybrid, for instance, I think there are possibilities of using hybrid engines, hybrid power sources, like between sustainable aviation fuel and electric, for instance, or completely electric solutions. That would definitely be a game changer because we could move directly to something sustainable. There have been examples of, let's say, personal air mobility solutions that are completely electric. The problem is that the flight time is literally a few minutes. And instead, we want to move directly to 15 to 30 minutes. And for that, we need some breakthrough in technology.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Because I was about to ask you. Actually, the one question I was about to ask you: do you think it's possible for someone to fly, say, 1 or 2 hours? I mean, Like, would that? I don't. I assume that may take like a decade or something, or more, or maybe less. What's your?
So it's all
opinion?
about right now. It's all about the weight that you can carry in terms of fuel. I do believe we can get to between 50, now. So the first prototype, for instance, you can fly for 3 to 5 minutes. It's very short time. It's mostly a capability demonstrator, and it has a very, very low. Let's say there's not enough weight, for instance, for me to fly at the beginning because we were bootstrapped. So we decided to buy small engines so we can make the company go forward, right? But for the next one, we're going to double the amount of the capacity, and we're going to be able to fly 15 to 30 minutes. I can definitely see that increasing in the future. We can put so much fuel, and maybe we can find better sustainable ways to carry more. As I mentioned before, if we solve the problem of storing hydrogen, and I'm not talking about the cost of hydrogen, because the cost of hydrogen is still very high if you want to produce it from green sources. But we have some space to drive it down. So if we can make the cost of hydrogen go down, and we find a way to carry hydrogen such that the volume is not too big and the cooling system, the entire infrastructure around is not too heavy, we can up to triple completely. We can get 3 times the flight time for the same weight of fuel. So yes, you can definitely go for 1 hour and a half, and I believe way less than 10 years from now.
Okay. All right. Another question. Sorry, this came to my mind when it comes to energy. You know, we talked about hydrogen, we talked about aviation fuel and the sustainable aviation fuel. Because also in the energy space too, there's also been this movement on biofuel.
Yeah.
Is there an opportunity for biofuel to be an alternative? I mean,
when I talk about sustainable aviation fuel, that's mostly what I think of, biofuels. Like for instance,
all right, okay.
Like for instance, ethanol. It's all aviation fuel has already part of sustainable aviation fuel in it. But there are ways to go 100% sustainable. The problem is the cost of the fuel. But for us, it's not really a big issue, as I mentioned before. Actually, since we're talking about the cost, I want to mention, this is usually a question that people ask me, how much it's going to cost, right? That's fantastic. But I cannot afford it, right?
Right.
So let's say, I don't want to share the cost of the suit yet, but I can tell you how much our competitors are selling. Our competitors are selling at around $450,000. I think it's slightly more than that.
Okay.
So it's definitely something that I personally cannot afford. So how do we make that happen? And that's where the idea of the flight park comes in. By building a flight park, you can come to one of our facilities and rent the suit and flying over water, for instance, for a couple of 100 meters.
Yeah.
And this is the same thing that iFly is doing. iFly is an indoor skydiving place. I don't know if you've ever tried it, but it is a big facility in Dubai.
I passed by that a couple of times.
Yeah. And so they build indoor skydiving places where you can actually go and fly for a few $100s for 2 to 3 minutes in an indoor wind tunnel. We want to do the same business model, but of course with a way lower capex, because our suit is way cheaper than building an iFly facility, which to build an iFly facility is between $2 to $10 million. So for us, it's going to be a few $100K. But this is just the beginning. Like, I like to say, well, I was a computer architect, as I told you at the beginning. Whenever I used to teach, I always liked the history of computer architecture. The first computer ever made was about, inflation adjusted, $400,000. And now everyone has one. Everyone has multiple ones. Multiple computers, multiple microprocessors in our phones, our watches, and our laptops. So progress can really drive down the cost until it will be way cheaper to even buy a jet suit. I can tell you how much it costs to make right now. It's not much more than $100,000. So we can definitely drive down the cost in the future as well.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, cool. That's good. Yeah. That's interesting. That's interesting to know. So, but I had to go back because I guess you got some investment from Tim Draper from his
from the Draper Startup House. Is one of the LPs.
LPs, okay, yeah. But I gotta, because obviously I'm from the crypto and blockchain space, but I gotta ask you this, like, in the future, is it possible for the crypto and blockchain community to, if they want to buy one of those custom build Exovolar suits, or maybe rent it, or through one of the Exovolar flight club?
Yeah.
Is it possible? All right.
100% yes. I'm 100% positive on the decentralized finance, and so Bitcoin, Ethereum, or any other cryptocurrencies, you're going to be able to use that as well to either rent or buy the suit, or even join a flight club as well.
Oh, nice. Hey, thank you. Hey, thank you for the service. I'm sure. I think actually for me, it's. I think it kind of makes sense for me to use your suits instead of using the US dollar or dirham, because I want to bring the future to our now, so yeah. I think to me it kind of resonates and makes sense. Like, wait a minute, I think we in the crypto and blockchain space can support innovative creative technologies like what you guys are working on. So man, yeah. Can't wait to be part of it and make it happen. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I'll add it to our wait list. So yeah,
so you say,
going to be one
sure.
of the first trying.
But look, I'm also excited too that you're trying to do something here in Dubai, because just to give you some little bit of history. See, I was born and brought up in Dubai. I moved to the States, and I crash landed back to Dubai. But you know what? There's a lot of things that are happening over here. So I'm definitely excited to see what you guys are working on, and you're definitely making some interesting news. So I'm glad we got to connect, man.
Yeah, I'm glad we met you, Marcus. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, but see, before you go, you go on, continue, the usual amazing stuff with Exovolar. How can people connect with you, reach out to you, and who knows, maybe invest with you too? Sorry.
I can be reached out through LinkedIn, Instagram, or Twitter. I'm mostly active on LinkedIn, but my handle is the same everywhere. It's Giannini94. So Giannini94.
I'll share the links below.
Yeah. And also, I want to say another thing. If you're a founder right now, feel free to reach me. I'm always happy to help. No matter what, and I always answer. So LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, please just send me a message.
Okay, yeah. Oh yeah. No, thank you for saying that, because over here in Dubai we have a lot of new founders. I mean, from different industries. I think like your story, from the beginning, setting them up, going through all this growth and scale. Would love for people to reach out to you. I think your story definitely has a lot of value, man.
Yeah, thank you.
For sure that. Yeah, but anyways, hey, Andrea, thank you for connecting with me, and thank you for sharing your origin story and the big plans you have at Exovolar. So thank you for all that. Thank you for being here, man.
Thank you, Marcos. Hope to see you in Dubai.
Awesome. So anyways, all right, fam. We gotta go. Y'all be good. Y'all be safe. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. All right.